from mistress of disaster. Keep destruction in my way as the earth begins to shake and the sunlight I deprive. Soon the darkness will arrive, and now my troubles are done.
Let me know when to count. 5. Please mute until you're ready to talk. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off.
The following program is intended for mature audiences. People of Earth, attention. People of Earth, attention. This is a voice speaking to you from thousands of miles beyond your planet. You're listening to the Martian Revelation. Strap inside.
Look, I love Gary. He's fantastic.
Good job you're doing. Boy, what a good reputation. Thank you very much, Gary.
Go to www.thefacesofmars.com. That's www.thefacesofmars.com.
According to a new report in the New York Times, the U.S. government may have physical evidence of, and we're quoting, off-world vehicles not made on this Earth.
And as I say, in the words of the world's greatest detective, how often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
Surely the days of the great Martian revelation are upon us,
which nobody has ever seen before. When China looks at woke and they see the biggest problem we have is Dr. Seuss, In the meantime, they're building factories and trying to kill us in so many different ways. They laugh at us. They think we're so, frankly, they think our country is stupid.
SARS-CoV-1 clearly originated in China, and we were fortunate to escape a major pandemic. So we really had to learn a lot more about the viruses that were there, about whether or not people were getting infected with bad viruses. So in a very minor collaboration as part of a subcontract of a grant, we had a collaboration with some Chinese scientists. We had a collaboration with some Chinese Frankly,
they think our country is stupid. In the meantime, they're building factories and trying to kill us in so many different ways.
And what he conflated that is that therefore we were involved in creating the virus, which is the most ridiculous, majestic leap I've ever heard of.
Do not risk incurring the anger of the Chinese government because they are ruthless.
Joe Biden.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
You got the vaccination?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I mean, you seem no, it works. Or or the mom and dad, or the neighbor, or when you go to church, or when you're I really mean it. There are trusted interlocutors. Think of the people. If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon or whatever, something, or whether those aliens are here or not.
Shut the fuck up, okay? Shut the fuck up.
Come on, man.
He's shaking hands with the air. He's walking around somewhat bewildered. I'd say it's no good. And taking orders from the Easter Bunny. You saw that one? No. Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats have turned calm into chaos, competence into incompetence, and stability into anarchy, prosperity into poverty, and security into a catastrophe. You look at...
Wow. This is a classic example of white privilege, and you both have it.
What's that?
Anyone want to fill them in?
Yeah, I'll do it. Okay. So white privilege is when white people, particularly men, automatically assume they can take whatever they want. And they never have to worry about getting stopped by the police. And they have the inside track for any job
I got this one, Aisha. They have the inside track for any job they want.
Exactly, Gage. Thank you for that. That's white privilege.
Whoa. And we have that?
You sure do.
I see.
Whoa. I never realized this stuff.
Yeah. You've really opened up my eyes.
Well, I'm glad we've been able to enlighten you. The real question is, do you think you'll be acting differently from now on?
I guarantee it.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
Step aside, please. We have white privilege.
Yeah, check it out. Hey. Don't worry, it's okay. We automatically assume we can take what we want, and we don't have to worry about the police. It's okay, you didn't know. We didn't either. Good stuff, yeah.
This is what we were taught, sir.
Yeah, we're subverting existing paradigms.
This rules. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad we went to college.
Yeah, it's like, now I have the skills for today's workplace.
Well, let's see. What should we take next? Let's take that car.
But that's a police car.
Beavis, you dumbass. Didn't you hear? We don't have to worry about getting stopped by the police.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Beavis, let's tear ass.
That
was cool.
Don't move!
Sir, maybe you didn't know, but we have white privilege.
Get your hands where I can see them!
I think the problem is you're just uneducated.
Yeah, we're gonna get jobs on Wall Street.
I want to do what's right, and they are destroying our country.
Those motherfuckers!
escape. The path has led us here, and life's been swallowed by the shadows. No further can we go, but darker stars above. We have to find the Star Rider. Star Rider, you can't escape your raise the shadows, the trade is masters. You can't escape your fate. Star Rider, Star Rider, Star Rider. You can't escape your
Yes, indeed. You can't escape your fate, Star Rider. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all you ETs out there in the bite waves of the internet, and wherever you're at down through time monitoring this show. I'm Gary Legier, the Mars Revealer, known also as the Mad Martian, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Martian Revelation that is upon you all again now. Welcome to the Bazaar. Today is August 27th of 2022 or the 28th, depending upon your time zone as this airs through time. And you're listening to this broadcast through the Martian Revelation Show YouTube stream live at
www.thefacesofmars.com. That's www.thefacesofmars.com.
That's right, which everyone knows your defense for the war which we all fight against those evil dark mission is. We're all leading you away from the light and the truth and manipulating you all instead to help you open your wallets and your pocketbooks to only join their dark side at special clubs and their special subscriptions that allows them more power to continue to mislead you all and to steer you all away from the truth that they themselves not wish to face or even admit to. Hell, let alone even talk about.
Yeah, UFO Diaries. Faces on Mars. Cover up controversy. Down through time. Huge conspiracy.
It is a conspiracy.
Okay.
But the Martian Revelation is, however, 100% listener supported, with no special clubs or any special subscriptions to join. So if you're a listener, please help support the Martian Revelation Show again, which is your only defense for that war which you all fight against those evil dark missioners. And we're trying to work with the goal each week to bring you the bizarre truth, one show at a time. So please share the facesofmars.com link. And I must also ask you all, though, that you please donate to the show with anything that you could afford by clicking on that big red, white, and blue American donate button at the top of the show page to allow it to continue being here for you down through time. As it is because of you, the listener, which makes the Martian Revelation possible to be brought to you all back through time. So your listenership and your donation support actually counts. And it helps us all to not only fight, but to win against those evil dark missioners. As well as to secure a future which we all can literally make the Martian Revelation our reality. By what you say? By making our fate. Just remember also that if you're listening to this, the Martian Revelation show, then know this, that you are the resistance down through time. Now, with that being said, we're not going to be getting into any news or anything like that tonight. I know this show has not been live for the past several weeks. So I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm working on testing this computer that was sent to us by RUR Robotics. So hopefully this will solve the problem of our weekly infiltrator that busts our balls each week, pretty much, at least for the last year. So hopefully we're going to be putting a stop to that with the new system. We'll see. So hoping that everything goes okay. So consider this week's show basically like a test. No news, no other stuff to get into, but I figure we'll sit here and talk a while, as we're not going to have a guest on either, but we are going to play a movie for you all from 1950 called Rocket Ship XM. So, and after the video's over, then we're going to come back on and we're going to talk a little about it, and then we'll sign off. Again, this show's basically an experiment, doing a test to make sure that this new system is doing good enough for what our needs are, is what was donated by a listener. Thank you very much. Again, RUR Robotics. So that being said, you all miss me? Well, I miss you all, I'll tell you that. I admit it. But there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things being worked on. Plus, I'm writing the book. Yay, I know. Finally, I got over a major hurdle chapter of chapter 5 in the book I'm writing called The Faces of Mars, Beyond Mere Tricks of Light and Shadow. And of course, that this book 1, I expect maybe there'll be 2 or 3 books, but book 1, we're going to focus on the main face that started it all, the face of Cydonia. The so-called famous face of Mars. That's right. And I'm 120 pages in now. So it's going, but chapter 5 was a pain in the ass, and who ever heard of a chapter being 51 pages? No shit, 51 pages. But when if you all hopefully read the book when it's done, and you all get it, you'll see why. And it's got a plot twist to it as well, as a conspiratorial bent built within it, but not of my doing. And you'll see what I mean once you read the book. I just want to get it done this year. It's very graphic intensive, so it'll be a new look and a new book regards to the face of Cydonia that shows and screams at this case for the face of Cydonia is not even close to being over, not by a long shot. So with that, going on, we got other things going on, of course. I started another radio show also. That's still in the progression stages, especially while this new system gets up and going. It's called In the Interest of Justice. Myself and my co-host, Francis Canisia, we're going to have varied guests on, and we talk about basically the law, the corruptions, our cases, or or other cases that, it shows that there's corrupt courts, corrupt judges, corrupt lawyers, all the things that have to deal with the injustices going on in our country today. So we're slowly building that one up. So I got to tell you, it does feel good to be talking back on here again to you all. And it's nice to have a perspective on where this show is, where it was, and where it's going. No better example than the show replay that we played last week from April 7th of 2006 with Richard C. Hoagland as the first guest, and then Dr. John Brandenburg after Hoagland. And listening to that show now, it's like, wow. Because again, that was 2006, and how spot on and how relevant to today's is. It's like going through a doorway through time, being all the more true and fitting in what I was trying to report on and discuss and how I felt about things back then that regards to the space race, especially regards to the commie chinks and the importance of what they were building up back then to what they have already shown us, and the fact of the matter, it's in our face now of what the ultimate goal is in securing space. And they're working hard and forging full speed ahead. And there's a lot to say about that, or that I could say about that. But I don't want to be the only one talking about it. I'd like to bring on my co-producer, Mean Grain, because I believe he also noticed how spot on that I was early on. And to where we're at today, it's like, wow. Again, like you just walked through a doorway in time, and look where we're at now. If only people had listened back then. But that wasn't the goals and the ambitions. It was to sell us out to bring us up to this point in time to where we are in an existential threat, not just to our nation and as our constitution and as our people and as our freedoms, but also to our place in space by China. And to be honest, it quite makes me sick, but it's understood now as why. That's why I had to create the show in the interest of justice. And it makes me mad that I'm still having to think about it and knowing that what was coming upon us all these years, only to have gone unheard. At least so it seems. Well, Mean Green, what do you think about that? Mean Green?
Can you hear me coming through?
What do you think about that though, bro? Please tell me you're trying to get your mic working.
Can y'all hear me coming through?
Again, this is still a test. We're trying to get everything synced going on, and that's why this is how it is. But you know the motto on this show anyway, pack 'em and smoke 'em. But until he comes on and answers that, let me give you the call-in number in case anyone wants to call in during this hour, especially before the movie and or after the movie. You can call in because we're going to talk about the movie a little bit as well. But if you want to call in, all right, the number, get your pen and paper or whatever down and take down this number. 786-633-2225. 786-633-2225. One more. 786-633-2225. You can't miss that. All right, one more. 786-633-2225. So, therefore, call on in. You have any comments, questions, or any relevance, your thoughts on last week's show, the replay from April 7th of 2006 with Richard Hoagland on there and then Dr. John Brandenburg. Very interesting. Again, all I can say is that down through time, how relevant it is. I mean, it's so fitting. One could say that that news was pretty much like you just heard it the last time we were on, right? I mean, it's like, what a big gap in time, but look at the major differences and the hurdles that have been overcome by the commie chinks and where we're at now trying to become and be destroyed by the commie chinks, especially to secure space. They know that's the more existential threat than anything on this planet trying to be achieved. Because if they can control space, they control the earth. And Mean Green, are you on with us yet, bro?
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Can anyone hear Mean Green as he just answered me? Give a test, Mean Green. I'm hearing a fucking speaker or something. You need your headset. All right. But if you can mute that sound. So what do you think, though, about that? About the relevance? And was it, do you agree with me? Was it like a Twilight Zone effect, like a door being opened through time? Or am I just crazy? Indeed. Bingo. Right. And we cannot let that happen on this planet or in space, you know. But But again, but looking at also the aspects of what Richard C. Hoagland was bringing up, a lot of that's still relevant, believe it or not, it seems. Would you agree? Especially that.
Yes.
Donovan saying they don't hear you.
Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3.
I hear you, but I don't think they do it. They cannot hear Mean Green. All right. Angel just put that there too. No audio from him. So I don't know what it is. This is one of the things we got to soothe out, but that's all right.
Oh, Donovan just says it works now.
Oh, it works now, Donovan? You could hear him? Talk again, Mean Green.
Yeah, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hey, you guys let me know if there's an echo.
I don't hear an echo, but yeah, they'll let you know. All right, Angel says it's okay. PSN TV, yes, it's okay. All right. So,
cool.
All right, so now, again, going back to Hoagland and the relevance, listening to that thing again, remember, that wasn't even 2 months. 2 months before, not even, I brought forth the UFO Diaries and the Faces of Mars up to its attention at Enterprise. Remember that?
Yes.
I mean,
I wasn't part of that group, but yeah, I remember everything about that. Yes.
And the things that I swear, when I listen closely to him, and I've made video paintings of it already, but I still, it's like he knew what I was about to reveal. There's something going on. There was something going on in that show, and the importance of him doing that show, not just about Barsoom and whatnot, but he was hinting and cluing in at me, I think, connecting to the code of UFO Diaries that now people could call me crazy, but I've already made show paintings with this, detailing this, using those words anyway. He gives us the pieces. Once we have the code keys, we could put down the underlying storyline to where I can have him explaining it unofficially. He'll never admit it on the fucking surface. He would never admit it, but he admits it unofficially by painting the picture. And I swear, Mingry, do you see what I'm talking about? And some of the things he says, isn't it kind of like eerily spooky, like how one might be able to address it to what I uncovered or tried to reveal or brought forth?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, of course. But
yeah, you have to be looking at it deeply, of course. But yeah, but now at this point in time,
I guess I'm more focused on like the show you actually did last week and stuff he was talking about in the show. Yeah, and I didn't see as far into it as you did, but I saw a lot of connections regarding like when he was talking about like what's the big fascination with Mars and how did they know so much so long ago?
That's right. Who knew what and when?
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, because in my Twilight Zone, dealing with that, I had to go back because there were certain things that I remember him and I talked about during that show, to where I had to listen to it again. And then that's how I made the connections and was able to make a painting out of it to see if there was a storyline. And shit, sure enough, there was. And that's the bizarre part, so in that regard, it's not far-fetched, and we may play those some nights. It's really a hurdle to go over, but disclosure was never meant to be pretty, especially if it's coming from a deciphering of a code. But the importance of it is like who knew what when, that there are secrets that are being passed, even when they're right in front of our faces, pun intended, of what we may and what we will experience up there at Mars, as well as in space. And one of the main obvious issues clarifying that fact is the face of Cydonia itself. Because you brought it up, Mean Green. Who knew what when? You want to tell us about some of those things?
Well, yeah, the whole idea of just face, you know, face and Mars. That alone is like a huge connection with a lot of stuff. And why is it that they're trying to? Why is it there's this connection with face and Mars? Because we see it in comic book, like Hoagland said. He brought up in last week's show that you replayed.
Right.
Also, 3D Viewmaster of Tom Corbett.
Yeah, do you have any images that the people can see to get an idea of what some of them were? Like that, the comic.
Yeah, let's check out the comic here.
Right.
And
that one was from 1958, I believe, by Jack Kirby, part of a series.
Yeah, and he's pretty famous for Marvel comics, because but Hoagland brought up a good point. He was part of the intelligence group when he was in the military. So, what did he know?
Right.
Was Hoagland touched on some pretty interesting stuff. And okay, so here's a reference, a face, and this looks like a giant face, like almost like a stone face on Mars. Okay, and that's like what we all were kind of like brought forth in 1976 when the Viking lander landed. So.
Right, and that story is very interesting.
And they call it a head, but it's pretty close, face, head.
Oh yeah,
so.
Especially what we get told of the experience of one of the astronauts who falls through the eye of that face, and he basically relives a virtual historical happenstance on Mars in the past that he was confused and he thought he was a part of because it looked so real, but it was holographic. And basically it was showing some bizarre alien race and these spider-looking ships coming, blasting apart cities of the planet and the tall dwellers and everything, and basically the destruction of Mars. And albeit maybe referring at the same time, we know here listeners to this show could appreciate and other independent Mars researchers, the work of Dr. John Brandenburg revealing how Mars was nuked. And one of the spots was Mare Acidalium, which is Cydonia is a part of its southeastern part of Mare Acidalium. Certainly it would have been hit with the blast as well, or at least run over its sculpted artscapes, especially its sculpted face and pyramids and other bizarre features, as well as Utopia Planitia, according to Brandenburg. It was two spots on the planet that let the signature, that this signature can only be left by not a natural nuclear destruction or process, but only by the weaponized detonation of intelligently designed nuclear bombs. And as big as the Empire State Building each, according to Brandenburg. Very interesting because of the Xenon 129 that was found there.
The Xenon 129, that's the signature.
And that's very important. Now, notice that's science. And what they all know, what Brandenburg, Dr. J, was tapped on the shoulder that he could come out with, but the moon is classified, is that Mars was nuked. And how is it we're going through a virtual comic book battle of a virtual experience of the astronaut falling through the eye, basically detailing, a race or the invaders came upon and blew the shit out of the place. Again, Hoagland was right in that sense. What did they know and how long did they know it?
Yeah, and good point too. This comic book, in some ways, is very connected to that movie that came out, almost maybe not 15 years ago, Mission to Mars. I mean,
Oh yeah, the virtual experience on the
Yeah,
inside.
I mean, you know,
After,
the whole thing
after
Gary Sinise went through, and you know,
right after. Remember, and what was the mode of that? Notice the face was throwing out a signal. It threw out a big old desert wind snake that destroyed the astronauts except one. Why? Because someone had to figure it out. Figure what out? It was throwing out a code. And once they seen the code and they were able to figure it out, they went back up there, grew some nuts, and was hoping and praying that the wormy thing will not come out and tear them apart. But instead, the door opened because they solved the code. And they broadcasted it back at the face. The door opens up. All the astronauts walk in, no, whereas Brennan in that Face of Mars comic was by himself when he fell through the eye. So all these astronauts got to walk inside the face, which was not the real Face of Mars. It was some caricature of the typical looking gray, nuttiness. But what was good about it, it showed the holographic scenario, not of war and such, but of the solar system, and they're walking between the planets as they're orbiting. Then they see this big old meteor come slam right into Mars and creates the Hellas Basin there. And that was the one that they showed the atmosphere dissipating, the water going away, and there's one little alien, crying like a little bitch, sending the genetics in the spaceship, steering it to Earth where it goes in the waters, and it does its evolutionary chain bullshit they want us to believe. But I think the main thing that life was seeded, or at least intelligent life, in my opinion, maybe other forms, from Mars. And that part was not seen in the comic, but it has been brought forth and theorized by many independent researchers, many of you know, like Hoagland and others, but still needs more input on all that. There's no solid model yet, but there are good models. Cannot knock them for having the balls and the audacity to come out and to say what it may be. And it may be, but many more questions need to be asked, Green. And that's what we're here for. This show is not a coincidence. Neither is you all listening to this. Last week's show proved that. Didn't it? We're able to open a doorway through time. Boom, the connections, it's all there. And especially what Dr. Brandenburg had to say during that. And I think, I don't know if that was before, because when I brought Dr. J. Brandenburg and Hoagland together, it was me that brought them together. They weren't talking for years, but I brought them together on that show, The Martian Revelation, where they spoke for the first time, in many years. And so I don't know if that one was before or after, but either way, it's all good, right? Speaking of Dr. J, he got in touch with me. He's going to be sending me a copy of his latest book, continuing the saga of Morningstar Pass, collapse of the UFO cover-up. This is, it's, I forget the name right on the tip of my tongue, but I did the book cover for him. So he's going to be sending me that. So hopefully you all will like that and buy the book. And it's a huge saga. So I got all of them now. Dr. J has sent me the rest. And he's going to be sending me this copy. So now I got the whole epic.
Cool.
It's just
send me the pic of that cover, dude.
Oh yeah, definitely. Maybe I'll also put it on the archive page for this. I didn't put any info on the main show page for tonight because we weren't even going to do a show. So surprise! Here we are. But that's what counts. And the archive page will be updated, obviously, after the show. So, but again, it brings the question, who knew what when? And that my footsteps are not my own. We are on a path. And Hoagland said it then. Just think of it like this, he said, basically. That him and I, him for a little longer, me a little less, have been part of a, shall we say, unsupported acclamation program to bring forth information. That's how I attributed the UFO diaries, the faces of Mars and all that shit. And it was like so perfect the way he laid it out. And in my opinion, it was meant to be. But it's also meant to be even for now. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it. Because as we're going to Mars and seeing these things, I still say we're not getting enough data from HiRISE of the face of Cydonia. From the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, we have like 12 or 13 swaths where the face is seen in it. Okay, but we only have one HiRISE. I want multiple HiRISEs. Why not? Why? Because they don't want us to see and know what it really is. Okay, and they were never able to make that disappear. It was their pain in the ass. They had to deal with it. They had to officially have their position on it that they do, but always kept it officially named the face on Mars. Why? Well, you're going to have to buy, when it's done, the Faces of Mars Beyond Mere Tricks of Light and Shadow, because in that, it brings you that. And it's not nonsense. All right? The face is very real. Look, they claim it was 5 or 6 different things: a mesa, a mountain, even a lava dome, a massive, a hill. I mean, can't they make up their fucking minds? But yet they still don't know what they're really. But they call it, but they have to portray it as as natural as possible, and still keep the official name, the face on Mars. It's a policy, okay? And let alone getting into any of these other faces, a la Hoagland, and via the code of the Twilight Zone down through time, and unofficially describing about it. Crazy, am I? I don't think so. There's too much consistencies. And where we're at now, down through time, we're still needing to carry on an investigation in regards to the face on Mars. Would you agree to that, Mean Green? Have we gotten enough? Have you gotten enough?
Yes. I was going to answer a question that was that one of the guys on YouTube was asking Donovan. What's the name of the comic book for Jack Kirby?
The face on Mars.
No, yeah, but the actual series of comics is called The Race to the Moon.
Oh, The Race to the Moon. That was number 1.
Yeah,
that was number 1. Race to the Moon was 2, and number 3 was, damn, I forget the name.
But that's where, I mean, if he wants to try to find it, that comic, it's part of that series called Race to the Moon.
What's up, Mike? How you doing, brother? So we got Michael Deacon in the house.
Excellent.
You know, but think about it again. We need more image data of the face. We have Mars Odyssey, even lower resolution than Viking, and I was able to bring out the details that NASA don't want to bring out, and it still looks like a face. It's consistent with other Mars Odyssey, higher imagery than Viking, higher res imagery than Viking, showing consistent details to both Viking and the lower res of Odyssey. And we have Mars Global Surveyor, of course, but we also have the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter image data, which obviously, you know, we need more data, but we have more than enough sources to show that that face is still there. The details that I claim are upon it are still there. It's not an eroding dust heap. It's not collapsed. It's not in a sand dune. In fact, there's no sand around it. It's a face on Mars lying in the Martian desert. Well, someone's face was lying in the Martian desert, because when they say that, it puts the impression that people are thinking, oh, it's in a bunch of sand like Egypt. No, a desert means a place without water, void of water, right? That's what desert really means, whether it's got sand all over the place or metallically, artistically sculpted artscapes with miles long and miles wide pyramids and faces and face pyramids and other bizarre shit, and just artscapes, which I claim ever back then and even now that Mars is artistically sculpted on an entire planetary scale. That nothing and no one's work has been able to slam down that theory. In fact, technically, they support everyone's findings are leaning towards support of where I go with it. Like Richard Hoagland once said to me, Gary, it's good science, just not yet. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Just not yet. Not now. Not then. People cannot deal with an artistically sculpted entire planetary surface if they can't even fucking deal with an artistically sculpted face of Mars, let alone then having to accept and deal with this other faces of Mars. Look, what a ride it's been, Mean Green. What a ride. And isn't it also funny, and maybe you would agree, that also the aspects of the destruction, if you have any pictures you want to show of that, of the Viewmaster reels.
Oh yeah, Tom Corbett.
Yes. You want to show us about those things, some of those images? Because that's really interesting as well, because in that story, they went to the moon first, and then they tripped over an artifact, which basically led its beacon for them to get their ass to Mars, which you see right there. And notice it's inside a tetrahedral. Ah, but this time the pyramid ain't in a circle, it's the opposite. And then they find a statuette of a feline kitty, as it was, and there's the image again, but the feline kitty, under the face of the kitty, the feline, the face is Cydonia, half of it's a lion, right? If you split each side and mirror them, one looks like a lion. Notice it's a feline kitty, and under the nose and mouth of the kitty is like a planet that exploded. And I have a feeling it's the one that Dr. Tom Van Flandern, when I had him on, and then had him on with Richard Hoagland after that for the In Deep Impact or In Deep Crap episode we did together of the exploded planet. So was this a hint and a reference that they know that the asteroid belt, since Mars's position and they were being guided to go to Mars, where they find that statue, they dig it up, so to say, and it shows an exploding world. Now, was Mars once a part of that planetary body as a moon, as an orbiting moon, or what? It's possible by the size of this planet that must have been. That's even Dr. Tom Van Flandern and Hoagland, they weren't totally what was that word? Not secure, but positive of what size, if we were to compel all the asteroids together, how big it would be. But if we go by the Sumerian's tale, remember, Earth is a chunk of that planet. So if they were to accumulate all those asteroids together and our planet, would that make up the body size approximation of what exploded there? That again, I forget the year of the Tom Corbett, but I believe that was in the 50s too, wasn't it? Mean Green?
Yes.
Viewmasters?
Yes.
Notice how that time frame, they certainly knew a lot of shit that they were throwing out of us that we would be finding and or theorizing or connecting to in some weird way just decades or two later.
Yeah, and good point, because the movie we're going to show tonight actually came out in 1950. It's
right,
the earliest of them all. Yeah, and it's very interesting what they reference and what they show. Probably in the later half of the movie, but
sees all. Donovan says
it's going to make you scratch your head and go, what?
Well, you guys are definitely going to have to pack them and smoke them to watch this movie. Again, it's from 1950s, and a lot of them are cool to watch. If you ever watch Mystery Science Theater 3000, it gets you used to, you young'uns who aren't used to black and white movies and think it's cheesy. Pack them and smoke them, watch Mystery Science Theater 3000. You guys get the laugh, you get the rank at the actors and at the cheesy scenes, but while following whether it's a cool story, a movie or not. This is one of those movies. It's a classic, and I think needs to be looked at. There is another one I'm going to play in a couple weeks called The Totem Heads.
Yes, that's a good one.
Remember that one?
Yeah, that's from an actual that's a TV serial.
Yes, and get this. It deals with other faces of Mars, and it also deals with the code. Ha ha ha! Down through time. Isn't that something? But for Sidonians, they call them the Carnigans. That's all we'll say about that tonight. But that's a future show to pack them and smoke them on. But but the point is, what did they know and when did they know it? Again, Hoagland's right. And the same thing I ask of him, because me, I see him in a different light, behind the scenes, unofficially, than the guy who has to official and say things on the surface. That's the guy I don't know. That's the guy that I have issues with. But the guy behind the surface of the things he says, that it's like I was able to piece a story together. It's Twilight Zone, just like this. And why would that be far-fetched when we're considering Kirby, when we're considering this Viewmaster reel, and the type of things that it shows, and of the fact of what we have historically had happen down through time. It shouldn't exist. As too many coincidences, especially the hints and clues that you're going to see in the movie tonight, which we're not going to talk about until after the break. We'll play the song coming back from break like normal, and instead of me coming back in, shooting off my mouth, we're going to go directly to the video, and after the movie's done, then we're going to come back on and talk about it. And again, you people out there, if you want to call in now or after the movie, I would say call now if you're going to do it fast. All right, we got like about almost 10 minutes before we go to break and then to go to the movie. So it's 786-633-2225. 786-633-2225. 786-633-2225. Pick up the phone. I should get Larissa's old, singing for that commercial down in South Florida with those sexy hoes back in the day. Pick up the phone. You don't have to ask your mommy, kids. Just go and, pick it on up. Pick up the phone. Call them, People get the happy jerky going on, but I had the girl doing the video, the voice behind it. Boy, and what drama. Never ended. But and I was doing the show. I did this show, last week's show, as a matter of fact, while I was with Larissa McComas. So she's dead now. God rest her soul. Love you, Larissa. But other than that, I think tonight's show is going to be very interesting. What do you think, Mean Green? Is this like a pack 'em and smoke 'em type of flick to make you think?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah,
All
it might start off kind of slow, but it gets interesting.
Well, of course. But in the listeners to this show are going to appreciate, I think we already have a perception in mind. We could pick up on subtle things, and looking at things behind the lines of the things that we see on the surface. That is, boom. I mean, wow. Again, I think we need to play some of those coded videos some of these nights, Mean Green, just so we can see what I'm talking about or what he's talking about, and or to decide for yourselves whether I'm crazy or not. But yet there's the truth. So I guess, with that being said, is there anything else that you would like to add to this madness, Mean Green, before we go to break?
No, not at all.
All right, so I guess no one's calling in, but that's right. You all got the number, 786-633-2225, 786-633-2225. So after the video is done, if you want to call on in, give your perception, your comments. What are your thoughts on this show? Are you happy that the show's still trying to continue on, or are you pissed off that the show's still trying to continue on? And we're going to see if your fucking efforts to infiltrate my computer is going to happen or not. I'm betting it ain't. And if not, joke on your ass. And you would know who I'm talking to, of whoever's doing this to us for almost a year, busting my balls and disrespecting and busting the balls of the listeners. Okay, so that if you got a problem with me, you should just find me, come up in my face like a fucking man. Let's deal with what you want to deal with and see what's up. That's all I'm going to say. Because whether I fall or lose, I'm still going to get back up and I'm still going to continue doing the show. So what you going to do about it? Not a damn thing. I think you're too much of a puss to do so to begin with. So that being said, I think, listeners to the show can appreciate we got a motto here. All right. And if you don't know what that is pack 'em and smoke 'em. Because you're definitely going to need them when we come back on the Martian Revelation and start playing after the break, play the song, and then we're going to go directly to the movie. Again, Rocket Ship XM.
I'll be back.
Don't run. We are your friends.
Imagine that everything the U.S. government has told you about UFOs since Roswell has been a lie. Imagine that in a decade after Roswell, the government attempted communication with the aliens and succeeded. And after that, in absolute secrecy, things had gone far, far beyond this. Now imagine that tomorrow, the whole secret program is going to fall apart, and every terrible thing is going to come out. All we have left now is a prayer. Morning Star Pass, the collapse of the UFO cover-up, a fictional but unflinching and terrifying look inside the UFO cover-up, the secret government that supports it, and the world of the aliens themselves, and then how the whole secret kingdom ends. Morning Star Pass, a book that pulls no punches and does not sheath the sword unblooded. Morning Star Pass, plunging boldly where no other book has ventured, captures the whole wondrous nightmare that the UFO experience has become, from bizarre experiments performed on helpless abductees, to horrifying mutilations, to beyond, to the world of secret government supported by its own secret police, to the aliens in their secret bases, and finally to the beckoning stars themselves. The book does this by placing the cover-up, humanity, and the Earth in a real cosmos, where humanity and its passions are a part of the universe, not an aberration on it. Then comes the fall of the cover-up, in a climax of violence and desperation, to leave the human race facing the multi-hued stars with eyes open and seeking its place in them. The sands of time have run out for the cover-up, for against it, leading an army of investigators and warriors, comes Cassandra Chen, beautiful, driven, and doomed. Who can save her and us? Haha, you'll have to read it to find out. Morning Star Pass, The Collapse of the UFO Cover-Up by Victor Norgard. Get yours today. You can find this at www.firstbooks.com.
X minus 18 minutes.
Blood pressure slightly high. Nothing to be alarmed about, though.
Quite understandable under the circumstance.
The weaker sex. The only one whose blood pressure is normal.
X minus 17 minutes.
We're due in the assembly hall in another minute. Shall we go?
Good luck.
Thank you, Doctor, and good night.
X minus 16 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, every news service and newspaper is represented here tonight. And for your cooperation in the past, when complete secrecy was vital, we are grateful. However, I must make something clear. Although ours is not strictly a military project, a great deal of our research and knowledge falls within security regulations. Therefore, I must insist that you reveal only such information as appears in the authorized press release, which will be handed to you later. I'm sure that we can all recall the wild tales of the flying discs, flying saucers, spaceships, and who knows what imaginative creations. The press is to be commended for discounting, in most instances, these premature rumors, and so helping to minimize public apprehension. Tonight, you are invited here to witness an important event. You are all familiar with our previous work in sending robot missiles into space. That phase is at an end. Tonight, we will launch the first manned spaceship, the RXM, Rocket Ship Expedition Moon.
X minus 15 minutes.
Forever, man has dreamed of visiting the nearest of heavenly bodies. Some for adventurous, fantastic reasons. Others, like ourselves, because they visualized a successful lunar expedition as the first step toward practical interplanetary travel. Today, there is even the possibility that an unassailable base could be established on the moon to control world peace. I will now introduce to you the head of this expedition and his crew, Dr. Carl Ekstrom, designer of the RXM, and as you all know, one of the most brilliant physicists of the day, and an old friend. Dr. Lisa Van Horn, his most able co-worker and assistant, Doctor of Chemistry. Colonel Floyd Graham, pilot. Mr. Harry Chamberlain, astronomer, of the Mount Wilson and Palomar Observatory staffs. Mr. Chamberlain will serve as navigator. Major William Corrigan, engineer. I shall now ask Dr. Ekstrom to outline the flight plan for you. Carl?
X minus 14 minutes.
The distance between the Earth and the Moon at its closest proximity is 238,000 miles. We expect to cover this distance in approximately 48 hours. The first phase of our flight will be the ascent to an altitude of 300 miles. From the start, while we pass through the troposphere and stratosphere, until we reach the ionosphere, the flight will be controlled by our automatic pilot. After we have climbed through the atmosphere, we will turn the rocket into a parallel course with the surface of the Earth. In flying parallel with the Earth's surface, we receive added boost from its rotation.
X minus 13 minutes.
The RXM is what is known as a multi-stage or step rocket. Upon reaching escape velocity, the tail section, which has housed the fuel to attain this speed, will be jettisoned. The nose section, which is a complete rocket containing enough fuel for the entire trip and also containing our cabin, overcomes the gravitational pull of the Earth and heads in the direction of the Moon. After we have passed the equilibrium point where the Earth and the Moon's gravities are in balance, we will reduce power to a minimum. The Moon's attraction will carry us the rest of the way. Finally, we will reverse the rocket, utilizing the thrust of its motors to make our landing. A few more details which might interest you. The cabin is pressurized and gyro-controlled, keeping us in a level position at all times. We carry radar for navigation, shortwave for communication, and most important, more than twice the amount of fuel we expect to use to keep well within the margin of safety.
X minus 12 minutes.
We still have a few moments, ladies and gentlemen, for questions, if any of you care to put them.
Mr. Chamberlain, how do you fit into the picture? Do you have any family?
No, I've been living on mountaintops. I'm afraid it's too lonely for such opportunities.
Have you ever done any flying?
Only as a passenger.
But you're the navigator.
But you must realize that intersolar flight requires far more exact and precise navigation than any earthbound voyage.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's incidental.
It is?
Yes. You see, as an astronomer, I can appreciate the perfect observation conditions on a body without atmosphere, such as our moon. Do you realize that within 1 hour...
I've got about 800 head grazing down there. I bought my ranch with the flight pay I saved up during the war.
Mm-hmm. How does your wife feel about you going?
Well, she's a Texan, too, and well, she knows that when a Texas man makes up his mind to do something, that's it. Period. Say, I wish you fellas could have seen her face, so when I walked in and told her, in the strictest confidence, of course, honey, I'm going to the moon.
What did she say?
Well, she looked at me for a second and then said, what for? They ain't got nothing there that we don't have more of right here in Texas.
We've already made the trip 100 times.
What?
In the training room. Yeah, I've done more flying this last month than I've done in over 100 missions. And believe me, this is the hottest crew I've ever worked with, especially in the brains department.
Yeah, very attractive, too.
Yeah, I agree. But you can quote me on this. Unless you look like a test tube or a chemical formula, you haven't got a chance.
From the woman's angle, Dr. Van Horn, how does it feel making a trip like this alone with 4 men?
To tell you the truth, I never thought much about it.
Well, tell me, Doctor, is there any specific reason why one member of the crew should be a woman?
I'd like to answer that, if I may.
Certainly.
The reason Miss Van Horn is making this trip is because of her pioneering research with monatomic hydrogen. It enabled her to develop the first rocket fuel, powerful and concentrated enough to make this flight possible.
X minus 11 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pressed for time. You may view the takeoff from the observation bunker and return to this room immediately afterward. Everybody return here after the takeoff.
X minus 7 minutes.
Gyro control and compass okay. Battery's all up, autopilot's okay, everything's in order. Let's go. I've checked these calculations many times, they're perfectly correct. Oh yes, all commercial flights have been detoured 100 miles south.
Thank you. Well, I can't think of anything we've overlooked. All we need now is a little luck.
It doesn't seem real that the moment finally has arrived after all these years.
Has been a long time.
A long time for 2 men to work together.
You remember when we started, what they called us?
Young crackpots.
Yes, and what are we now? Maybe just crackpots.
The only regret I have is that I must stay behind.
Your job is no less important, Robert.
I know, but still...
X minus 6 minutes.
Carl? Good luck. Good luck, everybody.
X minus 5 minutes.
Better take one more look. We won't be as close as this to Mother Earth for some time.
We'll give the motors a final once-over.
X minus 4 minutes.
Motor room sealed.
Everything in order.
X minus 3 minutes.
No change in flight plans discussed. First 7 minutes of flight controlled by automatic pilot.
Pilot's ready.
7 minutes, straight ascent.
Straight ascent from starting point.
Starting thrust using all tail assembly engines, 2,300 tons.
Right.
Fuel mixture?
Hydrogen and oxygen plus A12. After 120 seconds, hydrogen and oxygen plus A14. After 340 seconds, hydrogen plus A16.
After 560 seconds, A16.
Right.
Any questions?
X minus 2 minutes.
Good luck.
X minus 1 minute. X minus 50 seconds. X minus 40 seconds. X minus 30 seconds. X minus 20 seconds. X minus 10 seconds. X minus 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Now, if you will follow me, we will attempt to establish radio contact with the ship.
The human body can withstand these accelerations, but it certainly was never meant to.
I feel like I was just tossed off a spooky bronc.
Are you all right, Doctor?
Oh, yes, can't hurt an old campaigner like me.
How about you? You all right?
Certainly.
Radar and gyro compass in order.
Automatic pilot okay.
Fuel consumption?
Normal.
Air pressure?
15 pounds.
Harry.
It's a marvelous sight, isn't it?
It is.
You can study maps and globes and try to visualize. But the actual experience, it's hard to express it.
Stand by to turn. Stand by. 4, 3, 2, turn.
Turn completed. Shipping level flight speed 3,400 miles per hour.
Altitude 360 miles.
How do we stand on fuel now?
3/10 supply left in tail section.
Mixture at present?
A16.
Harry, contact the base.
Right. RXM, calling BWS. RXM, calling BWS. Over.
Come in, RXM. Over to you.
Stand by, BWS.
Ekstrom speaking. We have leveled off at 360 miles altitude and are circling the globe at 3,400 miles per hour. We will increase speed gradually until we reach escape velocity of 25,000 miles per hour. Everyone aboard ship well. Over to you.
We'll be standing by.
5,500 miles.
Continue acceleration.
Hey, what happened to the rest of the night?
I'm afraid we ran right out of it.
If it's darkness you want, wait till we enter outer space, the realm of perpetual night.
6,000. 6,200 miles per hour.
Radar is tracking them perfectly. I had contact with them 4 minutes ago. Altitude 1,600 miles, speed 21,000 miles per hour, constantly increasing. They are about to reach escape velocity.
22,000.
Bill, check the pressurizing system and oxygen.
Right. Boy, this kind of weather makes me feel right at home. It's like a nice, cool night in East Texas.
24,000.
Take a reading the moment we attain escape velocity.
Yes.
Stand by. 25,000.
Prepare to jettison tail section.
Start the front assembly motors. Only 40 seconds supply of fuel left.
Hold on tight, everybody.
You ready?
Ready. Go.
Reduce power.
Look out!
That was a little too close for comfort.
We might be in a vacuum, but I sure felt the wind of that one.
Harry, contact the base again.
RXM calling BWS. Over.
Come in, RXM. Over to you.
Stand by, BWS.
We're on our way. We have jettisoned tail section and are now reducing power and speed according to plan until we come within the attraction of the moon. This probably last radio contact before return flight. Everybody aboard well.
BWS calling RXM. BWS calling RXM. Come in, RXM.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had hoped by having the entire press represented here tonight to eliminate any possible hearsay, rumor, or speculation from your reports. However, I regret to have to ask you to confine yourselves to the official news release. I promise to hand you any news that may come in as soon as it can be cleared.
I don't think I like all this dark. Well, it might be all right for sleeping, but for a steady diet,
I used to hate the daylight because I couldn't work. But up here in this eternal night, it's a different feeling.
A fella can get used to anything, I guess, if he has to. And I remember when I was first assigned to jets. I said to the colonel, Colonel, I joined this man's Air Force to fly an airplane, but nobody's going to hitch me to no Roman candle. Now I'm sitting right inside of one. Boy, oh boy. Ain't she pretty? Can you see Texas?
No, it's in the other hemisphere. Even so, from this distance, it would only appear a mere speck.
A mere speck? Texas a mere speck? Oh, no. Listen, my friend, I'm broad-minded. I've been around people, but don't you ever let any other Texan hear you say that. A mere speck.
It's the funniest sensation. I feel like I'm walking in a cloud. No effort at all.
We're getting deeper and into planetary space. Gravity will soon be practically non-existent.
Look, we got a stowaway aboard.
Hey, whoa. I need you.
Don't you think it's amusing?
There's nothing funny about that. Simply the lack of gravity.
Oh, of course, Dr. Van Horn.
Better make sure our equipment's fastened down.
Now, don't get mad at me, but can't you ever relax? All these weeks, months, I've been watching you. Nothing but work, work, work. You know, I've been wondering, how does a girl like you get mixed up in a thing like this in the first place?
I suppose you think that women should only cook and sew and bear children?
Isn't that enough? There's such a thing as going overboard in the other direction, too, you know. If you know what's I'll check the engines.
Bill, pressurize the motor room first.
Motor room pressure up.
Still drifting. After 14 hours and 12 minutes, we've covered 112,000 miles. We'll
come within the gravitational attraction of the moon.
Well, that's not important right now. Without power, we're helplessly suspended in space. Even if we were already within the gravitational reach, we'd still be unable to make a landing. We need power to land.
Checked and double-checked all connections. Primers, fuel injectors. Can't find a thing wrong.
And it must be the fuel mixture.
How much oxygen do we carry?
Don't worry. We have plenty left for the trip.
So the trip is planned, you mean?
If you don't mind. At differential 6 over m to the 30th power, the halfway check result is 262,000 to 341,000, both using tangent E, correct?
That isn't the result I have.
It must be the same. There's an error there.
I've made no error, Dr. Ekstrom.
I have to say that you made an error and discard your figures. I'm sorry.
Don't be.
Surely you're not going to let emotion enter into this.
Certainly not.
We'll continue computing using my results as a basis.
Yes, Doctor. Except that I feel very strongly, I should say, that we should try both.
We can't. To complete either calculation would take 6 to 8 hours. We can't afford the time. It's either one or the other, Dr. Van Horn.
But it doesn't have to be. You can't be arbitrary about imposing your will when these people's lives are at stake. Don't you realize that? You speak as calmly as if you were saying pass the salt. Aren't you human? Are you made of ice? I'm sorry. I apologize.
For what? For momentarily being a woman? It's completely understandable, Miss Van Horn. Now, shall we go ahead?
Yes, Doctor.
Tangent L9.
Tangent L9.
Hello? Yes? It's Dr. Hurley at Mount Palomar.
Yes, Dr. Hurley? Yes?
We located the RXM's position at 7:16 this morning. Since then, there has been very little change. Apparently, their velocity is far lower than we anticipated.
Are you sure, Doctor? Thank you. Wind that blows between the worlds. It cut him like a knife.
What?
Oh, nothing. It's a line from Kipling's Tomlinson. The poem about the chap, someone in our fix. He couldn't get into heaven or hell. Suspended in space.
Would you do something for me, please?
Sure.
I need those 2 grafts under Dr. Ekstrom's arm. I'm tired and shaky. I might awaken him.
I know the feeling.
I wouldn't rob him of his sleep for anything.
I knocked over a 10-foot Christmas tree once, all decorated, my cousin's house, just from trying to do something when I was too tired. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. Kids woke up, came rushing in. First they thought I was Santa Claus lying there with a busted tinsel star on my nose. I spoiled everything.
Yes. Thanks.
It's no trouble. Why don't you take a minute off from that? You're worn out.
I can't.
You'll think clearer if you do. When I was flying in the war, we had a guy like you in some of our long missions. Too bad.
Too bad.
Blew his top. We had to put him in Section 8. Held it in too long. Never let down a second.
You're right. I'm not even thinking straight anymore. Numbers buzz in my head like wasps. I ought to think of something different.
How about that? Something no human being ever saw before.
You know, it's funny. One never thinks of the Earth that way. As a dying planet with nothing to give out but reflected light. A mere moon.
Don't speak so disrespectfully of the moon. Mere moon. I've done some of my best work by moonlight. Found its light very effective.
For navigation?
For any purpose. Don't underrate it. Moonlight's potent.
You're speaking of its effect on men and women?
On women. I don't need this stuff myself.
Oh, you're immune.
No? Just don't need it. But did you ever park in an open convertible on the cliffs overlooking the Pacific? On a warm summer night when a big moon hung up there like a lantern? The blue light from it walking across the water. Radio playing a nice tune. Waves whooshing on the beach.
No, perhaps unfortunately, I never had the time nor the thought to do anything much beyond my profession.
Now, don't tell me that you never looked at that old moon except for astronomical reasons.
You're right. I have. In Rome once, and in Switzerland, at Lake Lugano. What a nice stroll.
Stroll?
Yes. Yes, we walked slowly around the edge of the lake for 2 hours.
And never stopped?
No.
Well, everybody to his own taste.
It was lovely there. The water black like cold coffee. The moonlight like flecks of ice cream floating on it. The music from the hotel ballroom. Oh, but that was so long ago. Another world. Fine scientist I am.
What?
Daydreaming.
It's good for you once in a while.
I suppose it is, but not now.
I still say it.
Say what?
That moonlight's effective stuff.
You're quite right.
What effect a double dose like this would have in a convertible? Nothing. Skip it.
Meteorites!
I've been through some pretty heavy flak in my day, but that's the worst I've ever had thrown at me. Heavenly flak. Say, maybe somebody don't want us to get where we aim to get. Oh, cheer up, Harry. After what we've been through, we'll get there all right.
Maybe it'd have been better if one of them had struck the ship. At least it'd have been sudden. Quick.
Now, your computation?
We have to add 12% O3 to A16.
Right. 12% O3 to A16. This means we'll have to rearrange some of the fuel tanks and all the connections. I will replace these H tanks with these.
The motor room's pressurized.
Think you can manage a half-ton tank?
Oh, sure. Down on my ranch, I used to throw a little old 1,000-pound steer over my shoulder every morning.
Sure that wasn't a little old bull you were throwing. All right, Sampson, let's see you do your stuff.
Think I was kidding, huh?
You'll never prove it to me here.
Doctor, can we be quite sure these proportions are safe? We never proved them by experiment.
The mathematical theory is beyond question.
O3, though. Sometimes it behaves unpredictably.
Woman's intuition again?
12% O3 to A16.
12% O3 to A16.
Our chart deviation is 32 degrees. Present position is...
We'll correct course when we're in powered flight once more.
Right.
All ready?
Ready. Stand by, everybody.
That again, Dr. Hurley. Are you certain? Yes. Yes, I see. Thank you. They are completely off their course. Moving with incredible velocity. Out into limitless space. I can't understand it.
I'm all right. Harry.
We're not getting enough oxygen.
Bill. Dr. Ekstrom.
How long has it been since...
I'm afraid we'll never know.
How are the others?
I think everybody's going to be all right.
It must have been days.
Fortunately, the engines were turned off.
When?
I must have turned the levers off when I blacked out.
But at what speed? You know the consequences of a body moving with unchecked velocity in free space.
Infinite motion.
So we made a little detour. Now we gotta double back that last road sign. Come on, let's go to work.
Try to determine our present velocity if possible.
Can't be. The instruments must have gone crazy.
I don't think so. By heading into space, we've added the Earth's orbital velocity to our own.
Then we're really moving.
I should say at least several times the maximum speed of your indicator. Any progress, Harry?
Should at least have an approximation of our position very shortly.
Fuel consumption?
In just a moment.
Doctor.
What?
I cut in resistances to raise the scale. But look.
Acceleration. Definite acceleration, but with the motors off, that's impossible unless...
This can't be correct.
What?
I seem to be getting a strong reflection of impulse directly ahead 50,000 miles.
That explains it.
Explains what?
Of course. Unbelievable. It couldn't be mere chance. I don't quite know how to tell you it's so. If I could have even dreamed that an incredible set of circumstances, each precisely and exactly timed, would carry us unerringly through space to our most congenial planetary neighbor, Mars, I would...
Mars?
It's utterly unbelievable.
No doubt whatsoever. Unmistakable.
Mars? What do you know?
What does it mean, Doctor?
It means there are times when a mere scientist has gone as far as he can, when he must pause and observe respectfully while something infinitely greater assumes control. I believe this is one of those times.
We shall go on, of course.
Our overall fuel consumption was
42%.
a Martian landing. Approaching a planet with atmosphere is far easier than the lunar maneuver. Certainly we shall go on. We should be betraying an unprecedented opportunity to do otherwise.
And I'd suggest there's a couple of little things we might do. This ship isn't going to land itself, you know.
Mark. I'll be darned.
We must first compute the correct thrust and fuel mixture to comply with anticipated conditions.
Escape velocity, 12,500 miles an hour. Oxygen at surface level, 15%.
Prepare to change to parallel course at distance 1,500 miles.
Right.
I've located them.
Located what?
The Earth and Moon.
Well, where are they?
Here, take a look.
Now, what do you know about that?
Is it all right to call Texas a mere speck now?
As we are now in parallel flight, we are reducing speed and altitude. At 50 miles altitude, we will execute a turn of 90 degrees, bringing the rocket into landing position. Since the gravitational attraction of Mars is only half as powerful as that of Earth, a thrust of 1,200 tons will be sufficient to make the landing. Fuel?
Hydrogen and oxygen plus A12.
Altitude 70 miles. 65. 60. 55 miles.
Stand by to turn.
50.
Turn.
90-degree turn completed.
Reduce power.
Altitude 40 miles. 38 miles.
I only hope the light holds out. It's getting dark down below. Clear to increase thrust at altitude 15 miles. It's getting darker rapidly. As far as I can make out, the terrain is suitable for landing.
Altitude 6 miles. 5 miles. 20,000 feet. 18,000.
Thrust at present, 1,250 tons.
Stand by to increase power.
15,000. 12,000. 10,000. 8,000. 7,000. 6,000.
We're losing altitude too fast. Increase thrust to 3,000 tons.
4,000 feet. 3,000. 2,000 feet.
Reduce thrust slowly to 1,250 tons.
1,000. 500.
Save the engines. Nice work, Floyd. Mars extending us a welcome. Now we're prepared to disembark first thing in the morning. In the meantime, we can rest and get our equipment ready.
Well, that's what I've been waiting for.
Yeah, I've been itching to get into one of these things.
Sorry to disappoint you, Bill. We have atmosphere here. We won't need pressure suits. Which works greatly in our favor, too. We can accomplish so much more unencumbered. As far as equipment's concerned, we'll take oxygen mask, camera, paraphernalia.
What about data for the return trip? It must be exact and precise. Hadn't we better begin preparation?
Yes, of course, you're right. We have so little time here. Such an opportunity. Let's think about that for a little while first. constellations ahead. Notice the abundant coloration? Green, orange, yellow, black.
A sign of tremendous mineralization.
Manganese, copper, nickel, pitchblende. Immense deposits of pitchblende.
You figuring on staking out a claim here? Just making sure we can find our way back.
All we've seen so far is rock and sand, sand and rocks. I wonder when we're going to run across some of these Martians. You know, for what I read, they've got pale faces and pinheads and fishy eyes.
Shall we go? The mind that conceived this must have been of a high order of intelligence. At least the equal of Earth. Perhaps considerably above ours.
To think that a complex, organized society existed here once.
Yes. And from all indications, thousands of years ago.
I wonder how it happened.
There's always the possibility of a meteor. But then it would have created a depression like a moon crater.
No, this wasn't caused by a meteor. This is definitely blast effect coupled with intense heat.
There's a strong field of radiation over there.
You'd better stop. The radioactivity is at the danger level. Ironic, isn't it? The mind of man wherever you encounter it, Earth or Mars. The highest attainments of human intellect, always diverted to self-destruction. Perhaps the entire surface of the planet is one vast ruin, like this.
Well, do you think we ought to start back to the ship?
I agree to that. We're neither prepared nor equipped for any stay here.
We have supplies for several days. Let's use this precious time as effectively as we can.
I agree with Dr. Ekstrom. A day here is more valuable than years of research on Earth.
Well, okay then, let's get going.
What a lesson here for our world. One blast, thousands of years of civilization wiped out.
Could there have been any survivors?
I should hate to think so. We still don't know all the genetic effects of radiation, but that it will produce mutations, malformities, disfigurements, blindness, that much we're sure of from research. A blast like this, I should hate to think that any survived.
Why don't you try to get some rest?
If I ever get back to Texas, I'll know better than to leave again. Yes, sir.
Bill. Lloyd, Dr. Ekstrom. There were men out there. Look, you gotta believe me. It wasn't a nightmare. I haven't slept at all. I tell you, I saw them.
Where?
Right out there. And when I yelled, they disappeared.
All right, let's go see.
Right here. And when they heard me, they disappeared in there.
Dr. Ekstrom, look at these footprints.
It don't take a Navajo to figure out what caused these.
It's hard to believe.
And now maybe you'll agree to return to the ship.
We can't stop now. We must follow, find out what kind of creatures they are. It's tremendously important.
We don't know how many there are. And suppose they're hostile with one rifle and a pistol. We won't have a prayer.
That's the chance we have to take. You wait here. I'm going ahead.
This kind of thing's just my meat. Mind if I come along?
Thank you, Ben.
I'm with you, Doctor.
No, Floyd, you three stay.
But
I'll have to make that in order. Come on, Bill. atomic age to Stone Age. Bill!
Dr. Ekstrom!
Where's Bill? Murdering savages. No, Floyd. Poor, fear-crazed, despairing wretches. Pity them. Pity them.
Don't talk anymore.
You must get back to Earth. Tell them what we found. Maybe this will...
Look out! I wish Harry were able to help. It's impossible to get a precise result without radar.
You've done a wonderful job.
We should have fuel enough for a landing.
When will we feel the Earth's gravity?
As soon as there's an increase in speed. According to elapsed time and velocity chart, almost any minute now. But without a check from Harry, it's...
I know we're in a tight spot, but we'll manage somehow.
Any sign of increase in speed?
Not yet. You know, you're a pretty swell girl, Lisa.
Girl? I'm not Dr. Van Horn anymore?
No, just Lisa.
Doing her job.
No, I don't see you that way at all. I see a woman sweet, gentle, and beautiful.
I'm not the same?
Somehow, no.
But I am, you know. The same, I mean.
Well, maybe I've changed then, but I feel that I've never known you before.
Will you, do something for me, please?
Sure, what?
Say my name the way you did a moment ago.
Lisa.
RXM calling BWS. RXM calling BWS. Come in, BWS. Over. Come in, BWS. I can't contact them. They won't answer. They won't ever answer.
Of course they will.
Speed's increasing. We're gonna make it. Shut off the fuel.
I'm sorry. I wish I could help.
You heard what Floyd said. Everything will be all right.
What about the fuel? We lost so much.
Well, we'll have enough for a landing.
How are we doing?
Not so good.
Well, what's the matter? Everything's worked out so far, right in the nose.
We haven't got enough fuel for a landing. Not even for an approach.
But the motors were functioning perfectly before I shut them off.
At 1/10 of capacity. I'm sorry, it's all my fault.
Maybe it's only the instruments.
It's hopeless. We are lost. Everything is lost. All Dr. Ekstrom's work in vain. Now the world will never know the terrible truth we learned.
No. Maybe there's still a chance. We must be close enough for shortwave. Try to contact the base.
If we only could. We must report everything. Tell them as much as we can. What we saw. The mistakes that we made.
RXM calling BWS. RXM calling BWS.
Dr. Fleming. Yes? The radio control room just called. They've contacted the RXM. There's too much interference. You better use these, Doctor.
BWS. Fleming speaking. Calling RXM. Come in, RXM. Repeat that again, please, Dr. Van Horn. What about Dr. Ekstrom?
Now at least they know. Floyd, hold me. Hold me tight.
I wish I knew some words that would help.
I'm sorry that we haven't had any time. That we didn't meet or know each other the way we do now sooner.
Time isn't so important.
Oh, yes, yes, it is.
Don't. We can say that time is behind us, that we've had years together.
Yes.
I can tell you about 1,000 wonderful hours we've spent together, because I feel we would have, inevitably. And there's not that much difference between the future and the past.
Not if you feel this way about it, no. Shouldn't we wake him?
What good would it do?
None, you're right.
It's only seconds, darling. Try not to be afraid.
Floyd, I'm not afraid anymore. Something happened, like a great wave carrying us up, bearing us, protecting us.
Dr. Fleming?
Yes?
The men from the news syndicates are still waiting.
All right, let them come in.
Dr. Fleming, the pilot and crew of Flight 19 International Airlines observed a strange object falling over Nova Scotia. According to their report, it could have been the RXM.
My office has been getting the same story over the wires for hours.
We know the RXM has been overdue a long time. Is there any connection, Doctor?
As yet, there has been no confirmation, but yes, I believe there is a connection.
Then they all perished in the crash.
No, 2 were lost earlier.
But the flight must be considered a failure.
Failure? Every point of our rocket theory has been established. It has proven that interspace travel is not only possible, but practicable. And it has supplied us with information which may well mean the salvation of our own world. No, gentlemen, the flight of the RXM was not a failure. Tomorrow we start construction of RXM-2.
So I'm guessing my voice is back on.
Yes.
So they have very interesting, wasn't that? A lot of twists. I couldn't stop laughing through a lot of that. The innuendos. I mean, like Mystery Science 3000. I mean, just busting ass laughing. You put a lot of humor. But regards to the subject of Mars and what they found there, like, wow, again, Kirby, the Viewmaster Reels, and then some. Dr. Brandenburg, even my theory. Imagine the whole planet may be like this. It's artistically sculpted entire planetary surface. The whole planet may be a planetary city ruin. What do you think, Mean Green? Hello?
Hey, I'm sorry about that. I had a little technical difficulty. Everything is going good. Yeah, I agree with you. There's so much that, like, is relevant today as was in those movies, or this movie, like Dr. J talking about, nuking Mars was nuked.
Yep.
They made reference to that, and They dig up a metallic sculpted face in the sand.
Yeah.
You know, so
they find.
Yeah,
some
so it
eagles.
goes back to what you said. Who knew what when?
It's very interesting, and that, and there's even more movies and things like that, and we'll focus on time to time on this show. Regards to that, I mean, how do they, what do they call that? Predictive programming, as it was. You know what I mean? Are you with me, bro?
Yes.
Oh, hey, sound busy.
I'm trying to. I got a lot of stuff going on in the background, so making sure everything's running right. So sorry, I missed. What was your question?
No, just how everything just seems. Again, the question: who knew what when? All of these movies, science fiction, are actually being put forth as theoretical models and actual scientific facts, or plain facts. Not much science needed there to make those connections. Predictive programming.
Yes.
So I mean, I don't know. It's very interesting. And the civilization that's there, the subsurface illegals, coming out and, attacking and whatnot. You know, pretty good plot and twist to it. That rocket ship kind of looked like Elon Musk's big effing rocket, didn't it? A little bit.
like taking off, off the surface. Yes.
Yeah, and having that flare at the top, like that has like that fluted rim at the top of the rocket, kind of resembles Elon Musk a little bit. So again, what did they know? When? What were they trying to hint at?
he must have been a fan of the movie.
Yeah, indeed. All the Elon Musk style, and then boom. That was so funny, man. I mean, a lot of this thing had me laughing. I'm over here all ripped, man, and I was, it was. But yes, it's still all fitting to where the research goes and how it is. And again, man, I just think there's too many coincidences. I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, I mean, more and more seems to point to like, what is the connection with a face and Mars? There always seems to be some connection to that.
Yes, indeed. And like that other video I want to play, maybe on a couple upcoming shows, Totem Heads and the Hidden Treasure of Mars. And they have portrayed like 4 or 5 of them. So I don't want to give it all away. We'll get into it when we watch it, but it's very interesting. Especially all the movies around this time. It's like prepping us. That Kirby comic, I think, was amongst, again, the best examples, all fitting in with this. Just like them picking it up, a small metallic face, they walk into a big giant face. I mean, it's, I think it's a no-brainer. They were trying to hint to us. But again, it brings us back to the question, how did they know? Let's speculate like that. How could they have known?
Good question, because, the Kirby comic, which was part of a series that included that story, Face on Mars, it actually came out in '58. So it was like after a lot of the you could say movie disclosure.
Right. This film that we just watched was 1950, correct?
Yes.
So Kirby comic was 8 years later, and Totem Heads and the Hidden Treasures of Mars, I think that's in the 50s as well.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Might be 1955. It was a TV series. I know that. that particular episode was from a TV series, and the red. You showed this over a year ago. I can't remember the exact name, but it
Red Planet Mars.
Yeah, Red Planet Mars. I think that was 52.
Yeah, 1952. Brookings. I mean, which
Yeah,
you know,
it's like all pre-Brookings stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Very interesting. You know, so we're definitely being prepped, and like Hoagland said in that show, from 2006, just not even 2 months before I brought forth UFO Diaries and the Faces of Mars, he indicated that we were part, especially me, somewhat unsupported part of this acclimation program to help bring this basically to the fruition of this path of which we're even doing here, trying to contemplate and talk about. It's a fulfillment of that ultimate mission. Again, my footsteps are not my own, you know, so there's if only I could talk about the science and the weird things with him, you know, but I'm not going to push the luck. Things are how they are, but we'll see what the future brings. No wine before it's time, he always says. You know, that's kind of funny.
Exactly, and this kind of extends on, at least from last week, when you had the Pick Up the Bones replay, him talking about this is like more connection to all what he was talking about.
That's right. They were like picking up the bones, in essence, in that film we just seen. You know, the remnants. Total correlation. Ain't that something? That's not a coincidence. It can't be. It's too much. It's too much. How many coincidences does it take, you know, for people to say, hey, this can't be a coincidence, you know? So I wonder who has the knowledge source of that face on Mars, let alone the other faces of Mars, but being brought forth to the public in such a manner regards to the focusing of at least a face on Mars, is pretty incredible. And that's what I'm dealing with in book 1 of The Faces of Mars, Beyond Mere Tricks of Light and Shadow. So I'm excited, and, you know, it's a pain in the ass. I've never written a book before, but we'll see. And for those that are wondering, that have asked, someone asked if Richard Hoagland will write a foreword to the book. Well, that's a lot, you know, and a lot to ask, especially after all the history. But regards to where all the science is, and for science benefit's sake, believe it or not, and I'll say it here, I might as well, he is part of the book. Without his help and his input for me to tackle chapter 5, again, 52 pages of a chapter, he played a major part in that, even though he hasn't seen or how I fitted it in, but we had spoken, as it was, well, corresponded, and well, who knows? I'm not gonna ask him for a forward or something. Again, I'm not articulate like him, though. You know, as his books like Monuments, I'm just me, but I'm gonna put forth, you know, my take, and, you know, the research, and very graphic intensive, because obviously that's what I deal with most. And if there will be collaborative actions by like George Haas and by a couple other people, Dr. Mark Carlotto. I already have material for the book from work that he helped do for us. Remember that rendering of my processing of the MRO context image of the face, bro?
Yes.
And from his shape from shading program. So that's major data and meat in a chapter in itself in the book.
Well, you know, you bring up a good point, Gary. You know, if it wasn't for Richard, a lot of people wouldn't be researching it to this day.
Well, yeah, and you know why?
I mean,
because
you know,
suppressed. It would have been suppressed.
I mean, but you
he
know,
busted their balls.
you go back to Mark Carlotto, and then people after him, and everybody has looked into it more ever since he, you know, published his book and brought this up. You know, and you know, you can say what you can about him, but he started.
There's a lot of things, and you know I have.
He started
And
the
he has
interest.
said things
Yeah,
too.
he was a major start of the interest. There's
Yes.
no doubt for me, and I know other people. So
I think he's going to have a major part in the revelation of this all, pun intended, and where this is going to where things can be official rather than in an unofficial. Am I making sense to you there, bro?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
well,
And that
hopefully
could be a good
others,
thing,
yeah.
but I cannot expect that. I'm lucky to have got what I got for the book for science sake and in the interest of our mutual subject, rather than all the other stuff, which eventually will be dealt with in a book with or without the participation. I don't know. I cannot have high hopes. And I think it's a good thing that I reached out and I'm able to use what I was able to use. And of course, I told him any input. You know, he just wants to read a copy of the book before I publish. So no problem, you know. I'm just not going to wait 2 fucking years to get any word back or whatnot. I got to move ahead, you know. But I give him a copy. Why not, right? If he thinks something could be added or he wants to add something, he's more than welcome to. Also, you know, this is important because this case for the face is not closed. All right, and everyone listening out there, the face of Mars at Cydonia is not a ruin. It's not a collapsed in anything. It's not an eroded desert dust heap. Okay? It's artistically sculpted. It's gilded metal. It's metallic. The colors of itself. Well, again, you want to believe what someone tells you rather than using your own eyes and analytical prowess when, like scientists usually require 3 sources, we have more so. You know what I'm saying? We have many sources, and it's still there. And the detailing and the way that this face is and its interaction with light, mere tricks of light and shadow is a half-truth. And it plays in the part on the builders and designers of the face that they had a mastery of the knowledge of how to utilize the light and upon carving the things that they carve, and not just as the face, but the entire planet itself. Crazy, am I? You heard that guy in 1950 in a movie. Oh, maybe the whole planet is like this. Really? To me, that's a confirmation of my hypothesis. A confirmation of Brandenburg's at the same damn minute as it was, minute and a half. So it was nuked. The radiation. Boom! 1950. So in 1950, they knew it was nuked. They knew it had a face on Mars, at least one. They knew there were ruined cities. They knew Mars was nuked. That's not a coincidence. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. You know,
No
those.
mistake in it.
Yeah, the actors in that movie were talking about it.
Oh yeah, you know, real award winners they are. You know.
but regardless, that information is being
Donovan said
disclosed
she
to
needs
you.
that big Ray gun.
It's being disclosed to you.
She's a slut. Right?
And then later we have Brandenburg telling you that. So
yes. So this was 1950. 1952, Red Planet Mars dealt with what? Codes from Mars. Everything, even my madness, my Martian madness, and everything on the surface that made things crazy and the historical things happen is still consistent with this model. That's the fucked up weird part. But I'm excited. It makes me excited. Because now wind me for his time. Like I say to Hoagland, well, here's my cup. I'm thirsty. How about you all? I think it's time. We're at that time. Again, listeners, this show can appreciate. You heard me, bro, say it many times. We're at a time based on Brookings that we're at a time now where we must be told. And now look at the time where we're putting all these pieces together, and we're sitting here talking about it. You guys got to admit this ain't a coincidence. Therefore, we must be at that time at the crest of it now. Because here we are talking about it. It makes sense. We can see it, right? At least I do. Do you see it, bro? I think you do.
Of course. So where are the callers? Looks like we might have lost Gary's connection there. Well, we'll take a little break here and see if we can get him reconnected.
All right, so everyone, we had some type of technical glitch. It wasn't on my system, though. It wasn't no infiltrator this time, at least not on my system. But somehow, Mean Green, even though I heard him, he couldn't hear me. So therefore, none of yous could hear me. So I don't know what went on there. Uh, Hopefully that won't happen again. And hopefully that ain't their next ability or tactic. But so far, regards to this system, then again, typically at 1 a.m. is the usual attack time. And we still got some time before that. I don't know if we'll make it that long. Again, this was a test show to check out some equipment and doing some things here. But I thought that was a good show. I thought that was a good movie. What do you people think? I mean, a lot of connections, a lot of consistencies, too many coincidences. It ain't a coincidence. We're all being told, and we're being now manifesting its future purpose of all this coming together, us talking about this now, us seeing this now, all these bits and pieces left over the years coming together now by the information that's now known. Just like the walk through the doorway of time, through last week's show, which was a replay from April 7th of 2006, which I called Pick Up the Bones, where we had Richard Hoagland and then Dr. Brandenburg on. And listen to that show. If you haven't, go listen to last week's archive. And then watch this again. Tell me it ain't fucking consistent. Tell me the time isn't now. Tell me there's no purpose. There is. And hopefully we're going to be able to keep bringing you each week the bizarre truth. And as we get things progressing, again, I also have another show in the interest of justice, also doing on Wednesdays, which should be at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to 2 p.m., maybe 3, who knows. Angel Espino, co-producer of that. He's helping that rocking. We're trying to put this together. And we definitely appreciate his time and his efforts. Maybe he sees something value of this because I'm going to need him to keep doing that. You know? I don't know. One day blessings and money will come, just like with this Mars shit. It's not about the money. Knowledge is the real riches. The knowledge we're getting, to which people, even back then, they're watching science fiction films. A lot of them people are dead now, and look where we're at with manifesting for us to put together and where we're being led to usher in the Martian revelation. Think I'm crazy, think I'm not. Love me, hate me. Doesn't matter, I'm still walking my path regardless. For those that care, I desperately need your help. Please hit that big red, white, and blue American donate button at the top of the show page of www.thefacesofmars.com and help these efforts continue along. Because those down through time also appreciate it. You are helping them down through time, securing our fate, because we must make our fate. And that's what we're doing here. There's a lot of implications in tonight's shows and the things I'm saying, the things that's been said, the things that's been put forth in movies, especially between Hoagland and myself, let alone future books. We're coming to that time in the road where it'll be time for wine. I can't wait. All I know is that, just like this planet that we just watched and the scenarios, and looking by what we see in modern day imagery from the surface as well as orbiter or orbiters, various images and sources, the commie jigs, they're not helping much. Told you I wish it crashed. Wish it blew up. All I know is that, what my opinion is that We just need to look beyond the rust. Till next week, God willing. Good night.
Good night.
The sand slowly melting away. It passes by from night to day, dripping through the threshold of time, just leaving a layer of grime. Got so many words left to say. Oh God, won't you show me a way? Had so many chances I've missed. I tried hard but couldn't resist. When things turn to dust, turn to dust, your love seems to fade away. But beyond the rust, beyond the rust, a lifetime away. Some memories come out of the blue, impressions of shadows I knew. Some are even lost for all time, so far gone they're leaving me blind. And sometimes it feels dark inside. Got so many demons to hide, but yet I don't see any light.